Okay, so before I get into my actual point, if Sarah did say this, which I went looking, I didn't find the quote where she actually said that Azriel had a redheaded mate. But even if she did, Eris exists. I am down for Azris before Gwynriel, personally. In all seriousness, though, I think that Azriel having a redheaded mate has no bearing on his endgame ship, because for him to be paired so often in the narrative structure with Elaine, who is so obviously framed around personal choice, I don't see how Az's red-headed mate or mate in general is relevant to an Elreal endgame. Speaking personally, I do not want Azriel and Elaine to be mates. I think that if they are mates, it would end up making Elreal a little less special than the others. And I just really want to see these two burn down the world, say fuck the mates, fuck God, fuck the cauldron, fuck everything, just to be together. And I feel like we don't have that in the story yet. Like, okay, so let's say Feyre and Tamlin had a healthy relationship and Tamlin wasn't the worst. What would have happened in a situation where Feyre was irrevocably in love with Tamlin, but then Rhysand is her mate? What happens then? But there is an inevitability to Feyre and Rhysand, that when Feyre ultimately chooses Rhysand, it's because she knows that they're mates. It is inevitable. There's no other person in the world who is matched to Feyre by a higher power than Rhysand. We move on to Nessian, and I was super, super down for the Nessian relationship, because this was at the point in the ACOTAR story where we had the mates were supposed to be rare at this point. And while there's some inclination that they're mates, Nesta and Cassian, we don't really get the idea that Cassian or Nesta know about it until Cassian says out loud, oh yeah, like I kind of knew we were mates, like I kind of figured that out when you were human. And at that point I was like, and this could just be my thing about the fated mate trope, like for me personally, but I think enough people ship Elreal that I think there's a huge part of this fandom that does want to see something different than a fated mate story as the culmination of a training arc. And again, I don't have a problem with Gwyneth. I love Gwyneth. I think that she's actually kind of a breath of fresh air, especially for Nesta's story. Like, I want to see her come into her own, and if she gets her own storyline, she gets her own storyline, but I would prefer it to be with a guy who wasn't there during the worst moment of her life. Like, it's like, that's another thing that I don't vibe with, like, the Gwynriel ship for. They turned, like, their meeting into a meet cute, and I think that's really gross. Like, you want this poor girl to have her mating bond snap when she lays eyes on Azriel for the first time, while he's actively rescuing her from the worst moment of her life? Like, come on, guys. And while there is an element of rescue to the Azriel-Elaine story, because Elaine got captured by Hybern and Azriel went to go get her back, I think there's a difference between him looking at Elaine's sister and being like, I don't care if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna get her back, to him rescuing Gwyneth while he's, essentially on the job. All this to say, while I cannot find any evidence that Sarah said anything about Azriel having a redheaded mate, but even if she did, I really don't think that Azriel having a redheaded mate would have anything to do with the Elreal love story, because it doesn't matter. They're rejecting their mates anyway.